Saving the best for last. Okay. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, House Bill 1002 passed committee 13-0 with bipartisan support, and I want to thank my co-authors, Representative Soliday, Representative Pressel, and Representative Burton. House Bill 1002 is about modernizing how Indiana regulates electric utilities, carefully, deliberately, and with the customer at the center of the conversation. I want to briefly walk through how this bill works. First, House Bill 1002 introduces performance-based rate making, or PBR, into Indiana law. At a high level, PBR is a regulatory framework that shifts the focus from simply approving utility spending to evaluating how utilities perform. Second, the bill implements the framework through multi-year rate plans. Instead of returning to the Commission year after year for piecemeal adjustments, utilities operate under a structured 3-year rate plan that provides predictability for both the utility customer and the utility, while keeping the Indiana Regulatory Commission, Utility Regulatory Commission firmly in oversight. These multi-year rate plans are not automatic or unchecked. Base rates are still established through a full Commission review, and the Commission retains authority through the life of the plan to examine performance, hold hearings, and make adjustments if outcomes do not meet expectations. Each year of the multi-year rate plan includes performance incentive metrics, or PIMs. These metrics are where accountability shows up for Hoosiers. The bill includes an affordability metric that looks at whether average residential electric bills are increasing faster than national electricity price trends, and if they are, the utility faces a penalty. If the costs are better controlled for customers, then the utility may earn a modest incentive at the discretion of the IURC. The bill also includes a service restoration metric, measuring how quickly power is restored after outages. Better performance is rewarded, and worse performance carries consequences. And this bill stems from years of foundational work of this legislature. In 2023, through House Enrolled Act 1007, the legislature formally asked the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to study performance-based rate making and bring back recommendations. The commission delivered that through a data-driven report this summer, outlining potential pathways and, importantly, cautioning against the wholesale or abrupt transition. Since then, the General Assembly has spent months studying that report, hearing from regulators, stakeholders, and experts, and asking hard questions about how PBR could work in Indiana. House Bill 1002 reflects those discussions. It does not implement PBR broadly or aggressively. It adopts a measured, limited approach focused on affordability, reliability, transparency, and regulatory oversight, ensuring that outcomes for Hoosiers improve, not just processes for utilities. In addition to the performance framework, this bill includes targeted consumer protections designed to provide stability without limiting choice. Residential customers are placed on a levelized billing option to smooth extreme seasonal bill spikes with a clear penalty-free opt-out at any time. This ensures predictability for families who want it while fully preserving individual decision-making. Paired with safeguards during extreme weather and increased transparency, these provisions are about protecting households from volatility, not directing how Hoosiers manage their energy use. The bill also clarifies emergency authority rather than allowing unilateral action. House Bill 1002 ensures that in truly extraordinary circumstances, such as a national economic crisis or a disaster of unprecedented scale, the IURC may recommend that the governor declare an energy emergency, preserving that executive oversight. The core of House Bill 1002 is simple. Utility regulation should reward performance that benefits Hoosiers and correct performance that does not. I'd like to again thank my co-authors, and respectfully ask for your support of House Bill 1002.
For discussion on the bill, Representative Pierce speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. This bill does something which is important, but I think there's more to be considered. And as you decide whether the bill is worth voting for, you have to kind of understand how we got here, right? It's true that increased fuel costs, supply chain disruptions, causing things like transformers to get really expensive, that definitely has impacted rates. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at the policy decisions that have been made in this body by this General Assembly over the last decade or so, we have done ratepayers no favors. And if you're really going to get to the bottom of the impacts on these rates, you're going to have a bill that goes back and revisits a lot of these policy decisions that have already been made. So just to give you a few examples over the last decade or so, House Bill 1421 in 2023 allowed natural gas plants, utilities that build them, to have what's called construction work in progress. That shifts the burden of risk from the shareholder to the ratepayer. Same thing was done in Senate Enrolled Act 271 in 2022. Small modular reactors, same thing. They get construction work in progress. Senate Enrolled Act 423 and 424, 2025, essentially allows utilities to recover all the pre-construction costs for a potential small modular reactor, and if the utility decides to walk away from that project, it can still charge all that to the ratepayer. The ratepayer ends up holding the bag if the SMR doesn't work out. House Enrolled Act 1420 in 2023. This had to deal with building new transmission lines, which are really essential to bringing the energy we need into the state and allows us to access to cheaper forms of energy out west, like renewable energy. And so we had an opportunity to inject some competition into this construction of transmission lines, and instead, this body decided, along with the Senate, that it would give a right of first refusal to the investor-owned utilities to control those transmission lines, which essentially puts them into the base, the rate base, which means the ratepayers pay for them, probably at a higher cost than if we had competition and some third-party companies involved. In 2013, Senate Enrolled Act 560 created this tracker, this automatic 80% of the cost of transmission, distribution, and other costs. It's called TDSIC tracker. That automatically kicked in a lot more costs, and you have to wait several years to get to a rate case where you could argue about what those rates should be. Now, to show you whose side this General Assembly has been on when it comes to utilities versus the consumers of the energy, the courts ruled that the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission had allowed a utility to collect too much under that TDSIC tracker. It included things that the court concluded were not of benefit to the ratepayer, to the customer. And so they disallowed those costs. They said, IURC, you did not follow the law as passed by the General Assembly. What was our response? We, in short order, passed a bill that overrode that court order, rewrote the law to ensure that the utility could recover all of those costs that the court had said do not benefit consumers. 2023, House Enrolled Act 1417. Same thing, Duke Energy. They wanted the ratepayers to pay for $212 million of the cost to clean up coal ash pollution it had created at its coal plants. The Supreme Court ruled that the IURC violated the law when it allowed those costs to be recovered. They said that it was retroactive rate making. What did this General Assembly do? What did this House do? It went ahead and reversed that, passed a law saying you get to have those costs. It's called a regulatory asset. You get to have it, and you get to recover it without pre-approval. Just put her on the books, take the money. Same thing happened again, Senate Enroll Act 9, 2023, another similar case. Within days, we overruled the court ruling. Each time when we had a choice to make about whose side we would stand on. Would we stand on the side of the consumers, the ratepayers, Hoosier families? We chose to stand with the utilities. There's more, but the hour is getting late. So we have a bill in front of us that does something, but the question is, what kind of ultimate impact will it have at the end of the day? So we're going to this levelized billing where we're going to just pay kind of the average of our consumption over the year. The idea is to smooth out the bills each month. But how that's going to impact the ratepayers, a little bit difficult to know because we don't really know how the true-ups are going to work. We know that up to a couple times a year, you're going to look back and ask, did a consumer use more or less energy than they had been paying for on this level billing? And it's they're either going to have to pay or they're going to get some kind of credit probably. But we have to be certain how that's going to operate. The summer disconnection moratorium. I think we've made it more complicated than we need to. In the winter disconnection period, we just say during these cold months, you can't disconnect. People who can't afford to keep their energy on. It seems to me we could simply just find the 2-3 warmest months, hottest months, and include those. So it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out with a couple days here, a couple days there, not allowing a disconnect. This is the first time that we're going to be using performance-based rate making. That's probably a positive development. One of the kind of perversions of what's called rate of return regulation we use now is the more expensive you can make providing the service, the bigger profit you get, because your return on equity that the Utility Commission decides is based on the cost of providing service. So you have a built-in incentive to make things more expensive to get a bigger recovery. So the goal of performance-based rate making is to shift it and instead have the utility either earn additional return for doing positive things for consumers or be penalized if they don't get the job done, like keep that power actually on. But it's a new system for Indiana. We're kind of putting our toe in the water on it. It's difficult to know what that impact's going to be. We're hoping that there'll be 3 years of more consistent rates, not a lot of increases, and that it'll be better for the ratepayers, but we're just going to have to wait and see. On the low-income consumer assistance program, I'm glad we're doing it, but we just told the utilities come up with a program and let the Utility Commission know about it. Instead of having a rulemaking process where we have all the parties interested in that topic providing information and having a proceeding to figure out what would be the best, most effective low-cost assistance program, instead we're kind of leaving it up to each and every utility to come in with what there's going to be. And then the other thing to remember is that low-cost program only applies to people who qualify for the LIHEAP program, for the federal program. So if you're not at the level of poverty that gets you into that federal program, but you're a struggling middle-class family because the rates have just spiked, or you've suffered some kind of financial setback, you're not getting help from this bill. You're kind of out there. Now, one idea we had on this side of the aisle, which was rejected, was let's go ahead and suspend the sales tax. Let's give every ratepayer an automatic 7% cut in the utility bill. Let's treat utilities, energy costs, like the necessity that they are, just as we treat food and clothing like that under the sales tax. But that was rejected. And so what are those middle-class families going to do that are kind of caught in the middle? So it kind of remains to be seen how all this is going to work out. The other thing I have to remark on too, before I close here. You know, one of the amendments that was rejected yesterday was my amendment number 11, which would have simply said that the money utilities spend on lobbying and political activities could not be in the rate base, meaning that you couldn't force the consumers to pay for those costs. And a procedural ruling was used to prevent us from having a vote on that amendment. For whatever reason, we didn't want to have an up and down vote on it. Now, it seems to me that's a pretty clear indication of which side this body's on. And you have to kind of use that to ask yourself, is this bill doing all that it can? Because we know that the utilities have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize shareholder value. It's their job to squeeze as much out of the ratepayers as possible. They're regulated monopolies, and so the only thing that stands between that goal and the consumers are the laws we pass and the utility commission that implements and enforces those laws. And clearly, both have failed the ratepayers. And we're hearing loud and clear from them. So while I'm pleased that we have discovered the issue of energy affordability and we're doing a little something about it, we've left an awful lot behind that could have really helped our families. And I'm willing to vote for something because it's better than nothing. But I think we need to recognize and understand that this is just a little bit of relief, probably for a few people on the lower end of the scale, and we're not doing enough to help the middle-class working families of our state who are desperately asking for relief.
For discussion, Representative Andrade, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pierce did a good job of breaking down the bill, so I'm not going to speak in regards to that, but I will be speaking on behalf of my constituents who I have heard loud and clear. Yesterday, I offered several amendments that would have provided immediate relief to Hoosiers who are struggling to pay their utility bills. Those amendments also will have increased transparency and accountability in how we regulate our utility companies. Unfortunately, every one of those amendments was voted down. And I want to be clear, my constituents are angry and they're frustrated. They expect us, lawmakers, to work together in a bipartisan way to help them during this time of the utilities costs that continue to stretch our families, stretch their budgets to the breaking point. Hoosiers across the state are making impossible choices between heating their homes, buying groceries, and paying for medication. They're asking us to act, and they are right to expect better from us. Today, I will be voting yes on House Bill 1002 because it does include some provisions that provide some basic relief to our Hoosiers. But let me be very clear, this bill does not go far enough to bring the relief that we need. It does provide some level of relief and some accountability or transparency that our Hoosiers deserve during this utility affordability crisis. My yes vote should not be mistaken for satisfaction with the status quo. I will continue to work across the aisle and with anyone willing to push for real solutions. Solutions that put our Hoosiers first, hold utility companies accountable, and bring meaningful, lasting relief to families across our state. As I close, to my constituents and our Hoosiers throughout the state, I appreciate and I'm thankful for you two reaching out to my office, for calling, for emailing, for sending me messages through social media, to reaching out to me personally, to letting me know that you're struggling to pay your utility bill. I hear you loud and clear, and I will continue to do the best to my ability to work across the aisle to ensure that we are fighting for you. Thank you.
For discussion, Representative Burton, speak on the bill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and the gentlemen of the House, as a representative from Southwest Indiana and no stranger to high bills, I stand before you optimistic. Guardrails and metrics will play a crucial role to reducing the energy burden in the long term. It is my belief that House Bill 1002 begins our journey to adequately address concerns regarding our energy future and energy utility cost. Soon, performance incentive mechanisms will be established. Consumers will have more data pertaining to household usage, and the most vulnerable in our communities will see relief. House Bill 1002 is a step into a new era of shaping energy policy with a focus on affordability. House Bill 1002 will not lead to lower utility bills next week, but we're embracing an approach that makes sense and is sensitive to the anxiety that many Hoosiers get when they receive their energy bills, especially following extreme weather, hot or cold. Affordability, reliability, resilience, stability, and environmental sustainability are the 5 pillars of the adopted energy policy for the state of Indiana, and this must continue to be our guiding light. Households, industry, and other entities are depending on us to get it right, and ratepayers want action more than they want excuses. There's been a lot of healthy debate regarding the ways to best address energy affordability, and it is my hope that these well-intentioned proposals and policies continue for Hoosiers. One of my most used phone apps in the last few days has been the MISO dashboard that details where our megawatts are coming from. Looking at the data, coal, natural gas, nuclear, wind, and solar lead energy forms. And as I was looking at the data, I was fascinated to learn that Minnesota relies heavily on wind and Texas relies heavily on natural gas, while solar production is growing rapidly. In this period of energy transition, it is going to be incredibly important for us to be agile, embrace the cheapest forms of energy, and position Indiana to address what Hoosiers are most concerned about, their ability to afford their energy cost. Together, we can address our energy cost, become more cognizant of our consumption, and enact substantive energy policy that embraces all forms of energy, especially the cheapest and most available. Join me in supporting 1002 as we shape our energy policy moving forward responsibly. Thank you.
For discussion, Representative Pryor, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill, I will be supporting this bill because it is a start. It's only a start, but we can do more. Many of you are probably getting phone calls from your constituents saying that their utility bills are too high. People want their utility bills to be lowered. That's what my constituents are saying. A lady at my church approached me and told me that her bill was $600. I just recently got another message from another one of my church members that said her bill was $650. That's a lot of money. People are hurting out there. So while we're doing this bill, I think we need to keep that in mind. We're doing a little bit, but what are our constituents saying? They're saying that they want their utility bills to be lowered. We're providing relief for data centers, but we're not providing the needed relief for ratepayers. We're not increasing the minimum wage for people. People are paying more and more and more of their wages on utility costs. $650, $550, that's a car note. That is a significant amount of money. I think that we really need to get serious about helping ratepayers because these rates, they're going to continue to go up. And we cannot continue to allow these utility companies to get what they want at the expense of ratepayers because they are suffering. And it's going to be a breaking point. And I think it's time that we do something so that we don't make that breaking point. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For discussion on the bill, Representative Novak, speak on the bill.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to add, we passed a bill yesterday on housing, to make housing more affordable and get housing going in the state of Indiana. Being a realtor since 1998, licensed in 2 states, this, if we could have done more. I'm going to support this bill because it's doing something. I wish we could have done more because when somebody's got and I won't tell you what my NIPSCO bill was, but when somebody has a payment like that's a huge factor in homeownership, and that's what's going to keep people out of homeownership when your utility bills are so high. Those are, she said car payments. Those used to be house payments back in the day. And we need to do more. And I'm going to support it because it's doing something, and I appreciate you guys doing it.
Leader Giaquina, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Sometimes you look at a bill, you read a bill, and you're like, they're just doesn't really do a lot, doesn't do a lot for me. I know we're making some small changes here, and the performance-based rate making, I think there's some, that it's gonna, I think we might see a little bit of impact from that, a little bit, a couple years down the road. I know there's some things in here in 1002 regarding shutoffs, but as far as, I think I counted maybe 13 amendments that the House Democrats put forward yesterday. None were accepted, and they all would have dealt with transparency, more accountability, and of course, real relief now, which is disappointing to see that those were not accepted. Still got another half to go, and we'll see what happens over in the Senate. But I have a town hall on Saturday, and I'm going to remind the folks here there that come to the town hall that what our caucus did, what I voted for, which is real relief now, which unfortunately is not in 1002 as it stands. But there are a couple good things there, so I'm going to vote for 1002, and we'll see what happens, what the bill looks like as it when it comes back to the House later on in the session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First discussion on the bill. Chair sees none. Authorized right to close your ways. The questions on file pass to the bill. All those in favor, Wills, Machino, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Do I have any? Have all the members voted? Tally the roll. Roll call shows 88 ayes, 4 noes. The bill is passed. Shall the title bill remain in the title of the act? Clerk shall inform Senate the passage of the bill. Senate sponsors.
House Bill 1002, Senator Cook.
That concludes today's business. We will meet again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. The chair recognizes Representative Issa for a motion.